Hi everyone, my name is Alicia Salcido. Welcome to my Week 2 multimedia discussion for MPA 594 Public Administration Concepts. In this presentation, we're going to review efficiency, bureaucracy, and then one concept that holds true and one concept that needs to be updated. For our first concept, we have efficiency. Efficiency is primarily known as maximizing production and reducing costs and resources. This is very true, especially for Department of Public Social Services in Riverside County, especially for their casework for workers. They want to be very efficient, and they're going to try to do what they can to be efficient. In order to do that, they have to implement some rules and policies for that. So this would come into play for the scientific management by Frederick Taylor, where he was looking at the micro level, determining how workers in themselves can be productive in the process that they're actually doing. What can they cut back on? What can they add to the workflow in order to improve the production of that? So that could be applied to the same thing to the Department of Public Social Services. They can find different ways to cut time in processing cases, find different avenues that would assist them in that process. This is actually be very different in comparison to Fayol, where his is more, instead of a micro level of reviewing that efficiency, he's going to look at this as a managerial level. Like, what can the managers do to assist the workers in this process to make the organization still efficient, especially processing caseload, especially for, this is important for the county because it's a very high number for each worker, which is causing tension on the workers and stress, and they want to reduce that because if your workers in itself are unsuccessful, unhappy, um, as Phil will say, like not harmonized, it's going to cause a turnover rate. And they want to make sure for any organization itself to ensure that your workers are in a good place with the organization, because that's how they're going to keep the best workers who are able to output the most work in itself. For our second concept, we have bureaucracy, which can be defined as an organization that handles tasks, policies, and regulation for the institution itself. And Woodrow Wilson would agree that, a bureaucracy is important just because if we didn't have this in place, we're such a complex society that it would just be very chaotic. Having a small organization to handle a specific region or process um, for the organization would help to follow the laws that are in place by the elected officials, and this bureaucracy would be ruled by public administrators. And Weber would also agree that this is very important because this is the big picture of democracy in itself, having a bureaucratic organization to assist with that, to make sure that these rules and regulations are being followed through. An example of this could be applied through is DPSS in Riverside County. DPSS itself do have their own policies in place that workers need to follow through to be in compliance. But they get all of their rules and regulation based on the federal laws or state laws that are in place. So the county, in order for them to be in compliance, they have to be in compliance with the federal and state. And this is how the DPSS is being very, or this is how DPSS is being a bureaucratic organization as they're following through all these steps. One concept that holds true is bureaucracy. This is never going to change, as it's important for a democratic society to have, because us having these different organizations helps, elected officials to see the bigger picture of what's going on in these little areas that they're not having full knowledge on. It's important because you're having people who are who get these positions based off of the merit, the knowledge, their background. You're not getting people hired just because they have any family ties, like the spoil systems or anything like that. These are people who are very well educated, who are very well trained to do what they need to do in their position to make that bureaucratic. For example, like DPSS, your regional manager, your deputy director is not just hired because they're the family member of another deputy director. They're hired because they worked so many years to maintain that position, and they have a well-rounded knowledge of what's going on and to understand every aspect of that role, to contribute their thoughts, um, decisions on the organization itself to be efficient. One of the concepts that needs to be updated is efficiency. It's on the right track because Frederick Taylor, he started the micro level of implementing science in the organization to be very efficient in the workload process. Fayol, he expanded on that and wanted to focus more on the managerial level to ensure that organizations were being efficient through the manager and then putting that energy and resources through the workers to keep them in line. I think it's going to go beyond that. You want to primarily focus on the workers, not just on their like production, but I feel like on the human relation aspects. I feel like that's very very important. This is more of leaning towards Mary Parker Follett, where she wants to kind of have like that open line of communication. You want it to be very a reciprocal relationship with one another, and that's very important because if you have that type of relationship manager between the workers, it's going to create a very harmonized environment. If there's any issues, situations that is occurring within the production, it can get brought up. And having that type of relationship is not only beneficial for the organization, but for the workers in themselves. That's going to create a very good mood for them. And that's going to help the organization be more efficient because they're going to be more happy workers to produce the work in itself. And that was the end of my presentation. Thank you guys very much for listening. Have a great week.